All right, I believe we are live. What's going on, everybody? Let me just check and make sure we're good here. Yes, we are. Welcome back to VKH Live. I'm your host, Jeff DeWitt. We're going to call this the After Hours special. We just VKH Live After Hours, I guess. I just did a tonight's VKH Live covering Hide and all aspects of his legacy, since this week was his 20th anniversary of his passing. But towards the end, I found out that our good friend Lori from V-Star Promotion was able to come in and talk about Hide and his legacy, and offer some really good insights about a lot of things. I'm very interested to hear what she has to say. She's with us now. Lori, how are you doing?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing pretty okay. Sorry I couldn't make it earlier, but something came up and I ended up becoming freer sooner than I thought. So I thought I'd come and chat to everybody for a bit.
Yeah, no worries. No problem. Yeah, it was a good thing it went so long. Because I was still up. I was still on when you came on. Oh, okay. Asuka's here. We got people watching. Yeah. All right, cool. I pulled my first lateral stream move. Maybe we can start with, unless there's something you particularly want to start with before this, but what can you maybe talk a little bit more about what you said in the voice message about how even today, like modern bands like Rides in Rebellion are still really inspired by Hide? Maybe go into more examples, or anything to expound on that. I'm really curious, to see what correlations might be out there.
Of course, because of how close I work with Rides in Rebellion, that's the band I have the most examples and the most insight in, as far as such a heavy influence from Hide and X Japan. But it's all over the industry, and even bands that you might not think about have at least some influence from Hide and X Japan, because a lot of the current crop, a lot of the current generation that are playing now grew up either knowing Hide or listening to him. Or their parents would listen to him, or etc., etc. So it's such an ingrained thing in the current industry. And the influence is still a very real thing. And the amount of guitarists, both visual kei and non-visual kei in Japan, that have a Hide memorial guitar sitting in their bedroom, you can't even imagine how big that number is.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was, like I was saying on the chat, it wasn't until fairly recently that I finally got the time to start dissecting the albums like I do when I review them and stuff, just really going in and paying attention and stuff, like Hide's albums. But especially that second one, for some reason, it really stuck out to me. Science, PSY, his second album, but all of them really, every single song, I'm like, this influenced somebody in visual kei. This influenced somebody in visual kei. This influenced somebody in visual kei. And it's all different. They're not even tropes. They're more subtler than tropes. They're I don't know. The example I used is the opening track to Science is it's like a James Bond meets punk rock kind of a jazzy tune, And I've seen like Bug Lug did that, you know, in like the opening track for like their second album, I think. But it's just like just the sheer number and the sheer breadth of like what of all the different genres that he was able to like plant seeds of inspiration in. Like he's got light soft songs that like I can see of inspiring artists, and then he's got like hard rock songs like with guitar riffs and stuff that I can really see inspiring like other artists, like Rides in Rebellion. I do see that with Rides in Rebellion. They have like the Hide guitar riffs, like the quick guitar riffs on some of those. I remember that from some of the live. I don't think the songs were out yet, but from when I saw when we saw them live, was that November 2016 at when they came to DC. Yeah, at AUSA.
Yeah, for sure. Taji especially, like out of all of the members always have liked X Japan and whatnot, but Taji especially is so heavily influenced by Hide. And
he's the guitarist.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just look at him, and like even his casual fashion, like he loves plaid. He's always like wearing something, not always, but 9 times out of 10, he'll be wearing something plaid, or like his hair is pink. He has similar kind of makeup style, but a bit more modern, of course. And he's the main composer, so he has a lot to do with what a Rising Rebellion track ends up sounding like. Of course, like they work closely together, but it comes from the composer first.
Yeah, that would be it. And if the composer's influenced, then the chat's trying to figure out what your accent is, by the way.
A lot of people do. I'm Australian, actually. I don't sound Australian except from like when I talk more casually. But yeah, the accent, I had a hearing problem when I was young, and they fixed that, but for the first 3 years of my life, I heard everything incorrectly. So they retaught me English, but it was done a bit differently. So that's kind of like shaped my accent. So
oh, wow.
It's not really an accent. It's just, I don't know how to say it. It's just the way I speak. Sorry.
It's the speaking style.
Yeah.
Very, very original speaking style.
Yeah. So sorry for everybody that needs to listen to it.
No, it's, I mean, I think they're curious. I think that means they like it. So
yeah, I do the Australian mannerisms and like the sayings and all of that, but it doesn't come out sounding overly Australian.
Yeah, it's it does. I've heard it a little bit, like when you're making like a really when you're making a point, like a really like hard point. I've heard it come out.
I swear like an Australian, but I'll refrain from doing that here.
I mean, you can, but like we've said all kinds of stuff on here, so somehow still professional, just a lot of F words and stuff. That's it. So
it's mainly when I say sorry, mother effer, but when I say it properly, that's when you really notice it.
Yeah. Emily says, it's okay, Lori. I love your accent. It's very beautiful.
Thanks. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah. So, so Lori, Hide, just the, composers, the composers being, okay. So that reminds me, and I brought this up on the stream, but I wanted to bounce it off of you because I think you might know a little bit more about it. So, I'm getting the impression that Hide didn't have like, a huge amount of a hand in the composing for X Japan. Like he had some, you know, like he has some songs that are credited to him, but I see a lot that are credited to Yoshiki. And I was under the impression that that's because that's like that style of thinking that if you compose the song, you get the song credit. I don't know if I'm incorrect in that logic. But what I was trying to figure out is was he more of a performer in X Japan and then like a side creative force, or like and then he sometimes had creative input, and then but because he was a performer, that like led him to be able to like make his own style, his own solo project. I don't know. Am I reaching there?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure myself. I know that he did have a hand in like songwriting and composing and all that, but you're right, it was mainly Yoshiki during the time of X Japan. Honestly, I think with Hide, his main asset, so to say, as a performer was his performance skills, his charisma, and what happens a lot of the time is like a band will write or compose a song together, and either one person will take credit or it will just be labeled as the band, or sometimes even one person will do it and it will still be credited as a band composition. Everybody has their own way of like how they're going to credit it, but more than anything, I think with Hide, like he did touch into it. Sometimes he did do it. Probably there were times where they all did it together and etc. etc. But his main thing was the fact that he was just a brilliant performer.
Yeah, and that's what we can actually talk about. Is I had it on my topics list, but I really didn't have time to tear into it. But let's talk about, if you're down for it. Let's talk about Hide and Miyavi. You know, because that's like the first thing that like I feel like it was for me. Like my very initial reaction when I first saw Hide is I was like, oh my god, this guy was Miyavi before Miyavi was Miyavi. Like, you know, like if you want to talk about artists that have been inspired, it's like,
yeah. If you listen to a lot of like the really old school Miyavi, like Girls Be Ambitious, that was one of my old favorites.
His like, performing style in the indies was like
very reminiscent.
Yeah. It was like he wasn't very good. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's unfair to say like that he was very much just being brash and just like being a brash kid and making noisy songs and getting it all out, and that's fine. But it was like if you decreased the level of Hide's skill by half and added it to his attitude, you have Indies Miyavi.
Miyavi indies, like I have a soft spot for anything indies. I like seeing that potential, and obviously like Miyavi's somebody that's like reached as far as he can and went further than that even. But like I think definitely in his indies days you could be blind and you could still see where he got his inspiration from, and that being Hide. But I think as he's grown as a person and as an artist, like you can kind of see that influence. Like it's still there in the back of his head, obviously. I think that's something that will never leave anybody that's ever inspired by any person. But you can kind of see as you like listen to his discography and like you listen to all of his albums, you watch all of their PVs as like he's going on in his career, you can see that he's like stopped the visible influence and he's just kind of grown more into his own style and his own sound and all that, to the point that 10 years or even shorter than that, a lot of people are going to be influenced by Miyavi.
Oh yeah, it's already happening. Are you familiar with what's his name? Masayoshi Oishi from Octo?
The name's familiar, but I can't really like put a face to it at the moment.
Oh, okay. Rhubarb from Fake Star for the viewers. Fake Star Promotions, another promoter. Rhubarb and Fake Star brought them to Acon 2017 last year, along with Pentagon, Pentagon Japan, and I got to interview them, and I think we may. I wasn't able to release the that interview, I don't think, because I had to go on hiatus for to settle some personal issues, but we may put it out. But one of the things that I found out is that, because what I found from him is he's a slap guitarist, and what I saw when I saw him live is he is a damn good slap guitarist. He's like acoustic Miyavi 2.0 levels of slap guitar. And like if Miyavi stuck with acoustic for as long as if Miyavi never went to electric guitar, you'd get this guy basically. And he directly credited Miyavi as like his inspiration, and then he learned on YouTube tutorials. And that guy is a driving force in like the anti-song industry now. So the group he's in is Octo, which is with Tom Hack. If you're familiar with Tom Hack, but he wrote a lot of the intro. He's an electric guitarist, and he wrote a lot of the intro music for K-On! And he's also the producer and I think guitarist in Myth Android, which is like another big band. So now you have like a guy from the Visual K scene that like is directly influencing, like the biggest anime industry, or like one of the biggest music industries, or one of the most high profile music industries, I guess, in the Japanese music industry. It's already happening with Miyavi. But I don't know, what do you think about this? I feel like Miyavi actually is, and it's hard to tell because like who knows what would have happened if Hide had was still alive today. But I feel like Miyavi had the same issue that Hide had, or was dealt the same head of cards. He's a very creative person, a very passionate person, and he loved a lot, but he also was like hurt a lot and things like that. And so he like had all these outbursts and creative outbursts, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that was plaguing Hide, it seemed, from all accounts. Miyavi looks like he got past the pain and just kept like the love, like what do you think about that?
Honestly, like the thing is with a lot of Visual K bandmen and people in the industry, they do suffer a lot for their music. It's not just Hide, it's not just Miyavi. Like I can list on and on about the people that either like put their relationships, either friendships or relationship with family, or like any type of relationship, on the line to make music. We talked about it briefly in the last one. A lot of bandmen put their health on the line to make this music, and even as far as their own emotional health, a lot of people put that on the line for the sake of Visual K and the music and the industry. And as an artist, like I'm not an artist myself, so I can only talk from what I can see. But I think it's important, and Miyavi, I think, has managed to do this. And I think to a degree, he managed to do it until he was unfortunately taken too soon. Maybe
Right.
It's something he would have grown to get better at as his career progressed if he hadn't unfortunately passed away when he did. But to be successful, I think rather than necessarily getting over the pain, and getting over the hardships, you need to use them in your creativity to improve and to grow. And they say music written from the heart, music written from pain and from experience and all of that is the best you can get because it's telling a story. And I think any great musician can tell a story from their pain if they know how to focus it correctly.
Yeah.
But
no, I see what you mean.
That's not to say like bad men from a happy family can't produce great music. You need to just know how to take what you've got going on in your life, whether it's negative or positive, and facet that in a very good way. Because like I know a lot of bandmen that have terrible relationships with their parents, like to the point where they've been told like they're a disgrace for doing what they're doing. But I also know some that have fantastic relationships with their parents. In Japan and in Osaka, especially, Rides in Rebellion are quite well known because the vocalist Kuro, his mum and dad are quite often at concerts just there to support him and rocking out and sitting in the corner just dancing along. Even Taji's mum, she'll quite often come down from their hometown, which is quite far away, and watch her son perform, and his father as well. It's not uncommon at a Rising Rebellion live to see a bunch of like 50-year-old men wearing Rising Rebellion t-shirts headbanging, and that's Taji's dad and his friends. So
Aww.
you don't necessarily need to have like negative energy and negative experiences to make good music. You can have positive as well. But basically what I'm trying to say is no matter what feelings you're having, whether they're negative, which is what it is a lot of the case, unfortunately, or positive, you need to harness that. And the people that can do that well, I think, have the most success. And Miyavi is an example of that.
Yeah. No, it's very true because it's not like he doesn't sing about sad stuff, because he does. But yeah, what I've seen, like as he's gotten newer, and when I say like newer, I'm talking about as we're getting into the dance music and stuff like that, is he will sing about it, but it's gone from like sad and like hopeless to like optimistic or like determined. If it's a negative song, it's like determined. And it's not like, fuck my life, everything's ruined. It's like, no, fuck this. I want to beat this. And I'm just like mad about wanting to beat it, and I actually really appreciated, and this is a jump, but it's a good example for me. I actually appreciated Corey Taylor for that, who is the vocalist of Slipknot and Stone Sour. A lot of his lyrics are very dark and very messed up and stuff. He has some, obviously Slipknot has some pretty messed up lyrics in certain places. But even like at the very beginning, when they were like the most messed up, you could say, he was always like there was a layer of determinedness and like there was a purpose to it. He's like, I'm really angry and I'm like singing about I probably want to kick the crap out of you or worse, but it's because I'm like motivated to beat this. I could even pick that up from a band like as dark as Slipknot just because of the way some of the verses were written and the way the vibe felt. So I really appreciate that. These artists that don't just wallow in it for like, years and years. And I mean, if that's what you got to do as an artist, that's what you got to do. But it's like, I don't know. I think a lot of us who are fans of Visual K and this like really emotional music, we probably know what it's like to be stuck in a funk for a really long time emotionally. I actually think most people do, but so it's kind of cool to see an artist do that, in real time. I don't know. I just rambled for a while. Sorry.
Oh, God. No, it's a good point. And we just got a question from Emily in the chat. Can I ask, why does the music industry push the J-rock and K-poppers or anyone in the music industry so much? It's like they cannot be themselves. Does the music industry not let people be themselves?
Oh,
I
okay.
can't talk for K-pop. Like my knowledge in the K-pop world is quite limited. There's another member of the V-Star staff that has a lot more knowledge on K-pop, but that's not me. But as for J-rock and Visual K, it's entertainment industry. What you're doing as a band is not only are you selling your music in the modern day, you're also selling yourself and the ideal of what you're meant to be. And in Japan, that's a lot stronger because Japanese people have all these ideals a lot stronger than a lot of other countries about what somebody is meant to be. So a lot of bandmen, they're meant to be single. They're meant to be like cool. They're meant to be fashionable. They're meant to be kind of aloof for, but still like attentive to their fans and all of that. So there's a lot of expectations on what people are meant to be. And it's not just now, even back in the past, from the ex-Japan days, they had expectations of what they were meant to be. And if those expectations are met, you'll get more fans, you'll sell more CDs, you get more money. And as an indie musician, you have a lot more choice because you're unsigned, you can do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you still want to sell your stuff, because if you're not selling stuff, you're not making money. If you're not making money, you can't eat. If you can't eat, you can't live, you can't make music, etc., etc. It's all that big circle, and it does really count at the end of the day. But even more so when a band is on a label, because the label wants to make money, right? So
Right.
it's all that cycle of what's expected. And unfortunately, it's, for better or worse, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. I wasn't really getting the impression that it's the labels are too rough on the bands, but I was getting the impression that it's the culture that is rough on the bands. Is that a little bit? Is that
A mix of
accurate,
both.
or
A mix of both.
a mix of both?
So like, really, it also depends on what label.
Yeah.
So yeah, like VKH, for example, they're under the Karabaos label, and I personally love working with them. They're really easy to work with, and the members are generally great guys as well. Like, they don't really put on an act, but they are expected to act a certain way. It's just convenient that that's kind of what they are naturally.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna check the chat and see how many people just type PSC.
Nobody, oddly enough.
Oh, okay.
Just seems like Asian entertainment public persona is very important, which is very much so.
Okay. Yeah, I'll speak on K-pop in a second because I do know a bit about it, but I would say that the music industry, you have to break it down by country because the culture seems to play a huge role in it. Like, for example, when it comes to Japan, I can understand. I jokingly say sometimes that it's like, you know, like like a bandman will get like arrested for marijuana possession, and then he'll have to leave the band, and it's a big deal. And it looks ridiculous to, like, you know, people in the States, right? Because it's like, oh, he's a rock star, he's supposed to be like a law-breaking son of a bitch kind of a guy, you know. But when you look at it in the context of Japan, this is a country that has had a like centuries on centuries of continual, largely homogenous, not often disturbed, and just left to develop culture, compared to a place like America where we're not even we're barely over 200 years old. We're we were founded by but there was a strong, from the get-go, there was a pretty strong installation of like immigrants and like a diverse culture and constantly changing and stuff like that. So there was never room for there to be the way things are kind of thing. And both of those are like for better and for worse or whatever, obviously. But like in this particular case, as I'm looking more into Japanese culture and politics and things like that, I'm making a point to try and encourage other people along with myself to like cast less and less judgment, from the West on certain things that seem strange to us. Because when you just go into the history and you think about that, it's like it's hard to rebel against a culture that established.
And the thing is, like, bringing Japanese culture and the Japanese culture mindset into it is actually a really good point, because it's not just Batman that have this going on. Like in Japan, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but there's actually a word for overworking yourself to death. That's how common it is that there's actually a word to describe it.
Wow.
Because a lot of people will die at their office desk just because they're non-stop working.
Yeah, and it's not like they're forced. That's what's crazy,
It's because it's what is expected, especially if you're working in a company. Yeah. My situation is a little bit different, but in my case, like I work for myself and I also do freelance photography on the side. But on a busy week, I'll maybe sleep 7 or 8 hours in the whole week. And that's considered normal here, because if I don't get all my work done, I'm not doing something right, even if the workload is crazy. And it's even more harsh for people that are office workers. And it's ridiculous. It's been in the news recently. This is a bit of a tangent, but it just goes to show what the working culture is here. There was a lady that was made to publicly apologize for becoming pregnant before her seniors at a preschool, because it was considered inconsiderate of her to take the time off leave when she had senior co-workers who were waiting to have a baby.
Oh, wow.
So that's making the news, and it just goes to show the working culture here. You need to put others in front of yourself to an extreme level, and it's the same with Batman, because like you'll see some people that are suffering from like mental illness or depression or some stuff like that, and they keep on pushing themselves even though they really shouldn't be, because like you don't want to mess around with any form of mental illness. If you're suffering, you need to take that time for yourself. But there's a lot of Batmen that would just push through it because they don't want to be selfish. They don't want to kind of like put themselves in front of the band, or even their fans. They don't want to let down their fans.
Yeah. Emily says, I'm not sure if you read this already. I understand it's just, I see, was that already read that so much J-Rockers passed out and get oxygen and tore like crazy?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I read that. That's, like I said, it happens here too.
Yeah.
Like back before I started V-Star Promotion, I was working on another job and I passed out 3 times in 1 year. And that was in Japan in one summer. Yeah. And that was considered normal.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, because I can kind of relate, because for people who don't know, like, my day job is my background's in computer engineering, but I'm a software engineer, but I'm involved in a lot of startup companies. And I had always, and I promise this wasn't like to self-indulge myself or anything, but I had always seen, like, from when I started with startups, which are like quick launch companies of like usually college kids, you know, running on a shoestring budget, using unconventional tactics to make like unconventional like products to like get in and upset the status quo and like try and make some money and establish yourself as fast as you can. I always saw the like startup people as like the rock stars of the tech industry, because it was such a make or break kind of thing. And it was like, there was like a period of time where it was like, if you were in a startup company and it had failed, it was like, certain employers in Silicon Valley looked at that as the equivalent of having like a master's degree, like from a college in like software engineering or just like in something tech. And then if you had one that succeeded, like you sold it or whatever, like someone bought it, then it was like having a PhD. And it was like the level of response for the successful ones was like skyrocketing as the odds of the success lowered, because like 1 in 10 would succeed. So I kind of translated that over to these bands a little bit, because like if they succeed, like it's probably going to have been, you know, it'll seem like they'll be glad they did it in retrospect, but it's like, you know, they don't all succeed. And you're putting yourself through hell to get a shot at, like, you know, something great, right?
For sure. And then another connection to what you just said, actually, that fits in really well is a lot of bands that end up being successful are not the members' first bands.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a lot of people will have like tons of bands before getting in one that ends up being successful. And like I'm also a big believer in session work. Going back to Rising Rebellion again, and kind of like why I think Taji is fantastic, because he really is. What happened was originally Taji, Kuro, and Ame were in a band called Black September, but back then Ame had a different name. And they broke up because they were still really, really young at the time. And Taji went off and started doing session work for a little while. So session work is where you do like cover bands and copy bands, and like you just work with a whole bunch of different people over time, and you get like more fans because you're working with so-and-so, so you get his fans, and then you work with so-and-so, so you get their fans. And after that, after about a year of that, they formed Rising Rebellion, and at that time it was before Nagi joined, so it was basically Black September but renamed, new style, slightly different music. You can go back and listen to some of their stuff. It's still on YouTube, and you can like still see that it's not massively different, but they have kind of like polished stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And then Nagi joined, but basically it was the same stuff, but they've been a lot more successful now because Taiji went and got all of that experience doing the session work, and he knew how to promote himself better and all of that. So joining different bands, working with different people, you're going to end up finding out how to become a lot more successful. It's very rare that somebody's first band will be their best.
Yeah, I almost wouldn't, like, again, like translating it back to startup, since I relate to that, like I didn't expect my first startup to succeed, because it's a 1 in 10 chance for it to like succeed, which is pretty good odds, to be honest, if you have nothing to lose, or like if it's not going to hurt you. But it's you don't expect something like that when you're taking that level of a risk to like succeed. But what you can do is what a lot of people I don't think get taught enough, that I think these musicians know, which is great, is that failure is a great thing, because you learn from your failures, and people who are smart like look at other people's failures, like a failed company or a failed band, and they look at that as a badge of honor because it goes back into the experience thing. Because you can get so much out of that, even though you failed, probably especially because you failed. Because if you succeeded, like when you succeed, our brains are designed to go into a state of bliss where we are not learning, we're not paying attention as much. So, you know, I would actually make the case that it's like if you're successful too early, you're not going to be ready for when the failure happens, you know, because you haven't learned enough lessons to handle stuff, you know. Like that's like pop stars basically. Like when they get like huge, and then they have one problem. Like, you know, it's like one problem and it screws them up, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to let a mistake ruin everything. It just depends on how you handle it, right?
Yeah, and, but it's like so high stakes that it's you know.
I think like just bringing this back to X Japan and Hide, because I think it ties in quite nicely. With X Japan, because they were so revolutionary at the time, I think like they didn't need to mess around much. They didn't need to experience many failures at the start of the career like a lot of people do. They had success reasonably quickly, honestly, because honestly, there was just not many other bands that did what they did at their level. But I think also that could have been a bit of a negative because they didn't really have time to like grow and develop like a lot of the bands these days do. They were kind of just like put on the fast track, and that increases like pressure, expectations and all of that, because let's be honest, for a long time they had the whole of the visual kei industry on their back, and they were carrying it in a lot of the cases. So I can only imagine how much pressure they had, and all of the members here, especially because a lot of people specifically looked at him because of his charisma.
Yeah, that's it's true. They had I think they did what they and I agree. I think one of the side effects of their circumstances was that they weren't in this freaking crazy like scenario visual kei bands are in now, where it's like iron sharpening iron, like these you know, these bands like struggling to, but not like in a bad way, but just like, you know, just going all out, trying to get attention, trying to do. I see so much DIY-ness in these bands now, you know, like, you know, like the staff with the bands you guys work with isn't big, right? You know?
Like, for sure. No.
Yeah.
Usually, like a lot of the times, bands won't even have staff bar the makeup person.
Yeah, that's a good investment. The makeup person. Yeah.
The makeup is a necessity, and if you don't have that, you can't really do visual kei properly, because it's, like you said, it's a very important factor.
I feel like you could either be masterful at an instrument or masterful at makeup to the point where you could do visual kei. I don't think you would have time for both.
Even then, like I have known one visual kei artist who also did the band's makeup, but like he was always very stressed for time, because like he also needed to do rehearsal, he needed to do everything else everybody else was doing, but he also needed to do makeup at the same time. So it is possible, but it's not the most recommended thing that you can do, because honestly, as it is, you already have 1,000 other things to do, and if you don't have any other staff, you're even busier.
Right. Yeah. So that do-it-yourself kind of thing wasn't, you know, it wasn't really. I don't know if it was even an option for X Japan at that point, but I do see, like, going through the history, it's like they did what they needed to do to make this a thing, to make this a scene, you know, like it was like Hide found bands, like that's how he found Lunacy, because he happened to be at a live, and then he got it. Oh, he got them over to Yoshiki, and Yoshiki signed them. So it like, and then he did the same thing for Glay, and then what was it? Two people in his first band were Kyo and someone else. I had found all this like out recently and talked about it on the last stream. Kyo, the vocalist, and the drummer, they both went on to either form or join Derlinger. Like it's, and then Yoshiki found and networked and signed like God knows how many people, like how many major bands. And it was that one band. Like that doesn't happen. Like Kiss didn't do that, you know, like the Rolling Stones didn't really do that. They just got big enough that they just had the platform that they inspired a bunch of people, I guess. Like maybe the Rolling Stones did it. I shouldn't make judgment calls. I'm not too familiar, but like, you know, like I can think of a lot of contemporary bands that were like, or like bands that were like, you know, major level, but I never hear about that like level of interactivity. Like I do with like these artists in Visual K that go on to make record labels, I guess. It's like they're reinvesting it's like they're giving back almost, you know, like they don't retire to their riches. They start a label, right?
Yeah, that's becoming quite common actually.
Yeah, that's
so
really
like
healthy.
From Carabos, Keita, he used to be in a band called Eve, and he's the CEO of Carabos now. And if you go to Planet Child Music, that's got Ma. Although to be fair, Ma just announced a new band yesterday, but still kind of counts. And like even more all over the place, it's just becoming really, really common. But like those kind of people that do that can lend their experience. We've got a few more questions in the chat. Lloyd, can I ask you where you're from?
Yeah,
I'm from
go for it.
Yeah,
I saw some good ones in there.
Sometimes I feel like double life. Honestly, who of us aren't living a double life? We present ourselves differently at work than what we'd act like at home. Of course, for J-rockers and visual K artists or any person in the entertainment industry as an entertainer, they're presenting themselves and they're living the double life idea on a different level than what most of us would do, but it's part and part of the industry. And you do it to protect yourself as well and the people that you're close to.
For sure. Hence why, like, you don't know what they look like. You don't know what a lot of visual K artists look like without makeup, you know, like,
yeah. Honestly, sometimes even I'm terrible with picking that out.
Yeah. I mean, it is smart. Like, I mean, technically most streamers don't show their face, so I screwed that one up. But I just I think it's fine. these visual K fans seem like nice people, J-Rock fans. But yeah, I have a certain take on that, the double life thing. It's kind of coming from like a masculine perspective that I'm kind of picking up. I keep hearing like these guys in visual K, they don't treat makeup like it's putting on their face. It doesn't seem like it. Like, you know, it's like I'm not really ready until I have my makeup on, because they seem happy to go out in like the reduced kind of makeup or you know, even just with a mask over their face and things like that. But the reason I say that it doesn't seem like that is because the analogy I keep hearing is like it's theater paint because of the kabuki theater influences, or it's like war paint. Like it's like, so it really is like they're donning like I see like a Clark Kent to Superman kind of thing going on, to be perfectly honest. And as a guy who just started like getting into makeup, like a straight guy, that might make a difference, but that's like a very compatible way for me to think about like makeup as like
it's basically part of the costume.
Yeah, like it's part of the costume. Like I'm putting on a mask, like that kind of thing. It's more functional for me. Like it just makes more sense to me that way than like, you know, that's part of my face. Like I need it as part of my face and stuff. And there's plenty of girls that like treat makeup like war paint too, or like a canvas even, you know, like, so it's like a different take on that, but it does seem like they're a different person, you know?
Yeah. So. Like going back to the history, Visual K and like the makeup style and the like actual visual part of Visual K was originally influenced by American and Western glam rock. So like Bowie, he was quite influential, and yeah, the heavy hair rockers and all of that. So that a lot of that came from that. And the reason behind that is because it's eye-catching. So like you're flicking through a magazine and you see a guy with big hair and makeup on, you're gonna pause and think, "Whoa, what's that about?" And that's how Visual K kind of started. And like it's changed a lot over time because like there's different makeup styles, there's different hairstyles, there's different genres, so it all fits into the different genres, how you want to present your music, how you want to present your style. But it's all just part of the performance and being eye-catching and all of that kind of stuff. Like you need to, with Visual K, you need to attract somebody with your visuals before you attract them with the music, because it's just the way it is, honestly.
Right. Yeah. I have a question for you. Another question for you about Hide. So, like a lot of modern Visual K now, it's only like Western glam rock, like on paper, you know, like in practice, like the look is very different. It's now very Japanese. It's very anime, you know, like real life anime in a lot of ways. Was Hide one of the first people with his solo project look to like go in that direction?
I'm not 100% sure, but I would say it's a definite possibility. Hide, with his solo project in particular, really kind of like opened a lot of new ground.
Yeah, that's it would fit right in, I guess, you know.
He was taking what I believe were very calculated risks, but they were still risky. It all worked out well for him because he was very successful in his solo career. But like he's also kind of like the benchmark for going solo nowadays, because he was the first one to kind of do it as successfully as what he did.
Yeah, it's still amazing, like how many of those calculated risks he pulled off.
Yeah,
and just like the diverse, like people compare him to Kurt Cobain, but Kurt Cobain has nothing on this guy in terms of like the breadth of like genres and industries that he like laid the foundation for, man. Like
I'm personally a fan of both. I love some Nirvana, but I of course never met Hide. I'm still rather young. And of course, when he passed away, I was still living in Australia. But like, I've talked to people who knew him, who had talked to him on a regular basis, etc., etc.
Right, like Hoshiko.
Yeah, like Hoshiko, and like he has a lot of fun memories, and like he'll talk about the times he spent with Hide with a smile, and like he'll reminisce about it. But something that I always kind of got, not only from Hoshiko but other people that I have talked to, was that Hide was a very smart man. He had like plans and stuff that he wanted to do, and all of that kind of stuff, which I guess is true for any musician. It's just having the willpower and the determination to go for it. And I guess he had that. But like I said, that's only the opinion that I get from talking with other people.
I mean, you do kind of get the feeling that there's a drive to his music, you know.
Yeah. You can hear the passion behind it.
Yeah.
No matter what emotion that he's displaying in the song, that you can definitely tell that he was passionate about everything that he did and talked about.
Yeah, it's basically. I have trouble like trying to quantify like still how I'm feeling about like just some of these albums, like they just like his albums, you know, just it's pretty crazy. And Emily in the chat, it's no worries, you can ask a lot of questions, it's fine.
Yeah,
you're more than welcome. I like when she asked, it said, where did J-Rock bands get the idea to become famous around the world and sell themselves to like, you know, other countries or like sell their music and like pitch themselves to other countries? And did they want to, or like, do you know if that was a push from someone else? I guess that kind of ties into X Japan, right?
Well, like, of course, I can only kind of correctly answer that for the bands that I work with.
Yeah, let's stick with that.
Yeah. Like, I think that there's probably a lot of bands that might occasionally think, oh, I'd like to go overseas or etc., etc., but a lot of the times they don't know how to quite reach that, like that part of the industry. So that's when companies like mine kind of help, if like we can reach out to them or they can reach out to us. But generally, if a band decides to reach overseas, it's either because of an international promoter reaching out to them, or even fans reaching out to them to show them that there's an interest if you put the effort into reaching out for it. But going back to Rides in Rebellion, what happened there was back when they were still just forming, they had maybe had 2 lives at that concert at that point, and hadn't released a PV. They only had their demo out, and Taji actually approached me and asked me to be in their first music video. You can check that out if you want. I personally would prefer not to, because
Why? You did a good job.
It was very embarrassing for me. I feel better behind the camera than in front of it as a photographer, but that aside,
okay.
I was approached to model for that, and for better or worse, I agreed. And we were having a meeting and we were talking about that, like how the PV filming was going to go originally. And as I was talking to him, this was like the first proper kind of discussion that we had, I realized how much passion he had. And this is going back to like having the passion and the drive to succeed. And by talking to Taji, I saw that he had that. Like, I hadn't really met the other members yet. I had only briefly met Amit. But yeah, Taji, it was just so clear that he believed in what he was doing and he believed in what could be achieved. So I just randomly said, well, how about I help promote you overseas? Just like really casually, like wasn't necessarily expecting it to go anywhere. I didn't especially expect it to go as far as what it has done. But that was the first time that it had ever been brought up with any band. And he was intrigued, and I said, well, we can try to do Twitter, etc., etc. And we kind of like jotted down a few ideas. And then about a month later, we went to Tokyo to film the music video. And it was like me, a driver, a makeup artist, and another member of staff all crammed into this one little car, because they also had their instruments. And we were just talking about everything that could be achieved if they actually like let me help them reach out overseas. And they did, and they've so far achieved a lot, and I think they can achieve even more. They're very open to their Western fan base. They enjoyed going to America for Anime USA. They want to go to more countries.
Oh yeah, they were great.
Yeah,
and they were. I will second your statement for the viewers, because I was there and wrote the live report for us, and they were so happy. The fans and the band, like, to see each other. It was very beautiful.
Yeah, like to this day, like I've been to more Rising Rebellion concerts that I can even care to count. I couldn't even guess how many Rising Rebellion concerts I've been to. But the concert in America at Anime USA, that is the first time that I ever seen Kuro, the vocalist, get so hyped up and so energetic. Like, he's always a very dynamic performer, but the energy of the American fans and the American crowd totally got to him, and it's the first time that I had ever seen him jump into the crowd.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
A little bit of a backstage thing here. Like, when we were setting up for the concert, the security guys were talking to me, and they were like, "Is there anything we need to watch out for? Like, is he gonna step down from the stage or anything?" And I was like, "No, he's never done that. It will be fine." And the moment he did that, the security guy shot me a bit of a glare, like, "You told us he wouldn't do that."
And then he did it. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh wow, yeah. By the way, guys, I wanted to make a point of saying this. If you haven't listened to Rides in Rebellion, RADES space REVELLION.
Yep.
Search them on Twitter or on Twitter. Well, on Twitter, they have an English Twitter. Search them on YouTube. Their music videos and Facebook. They have an English Facebook and Twitter, and their music is great. It's wonderful. That's how I met Lori. Was at Anime USA, and I made the point of going to Anime USA because I was so impressed by the band. So
also, all 4 members also have Instagram, and if you go to Taji's Instagram in particular, and you go back a little bit, you can
let me see if I can
find you can find pictures of him and the other members cosplaying as X Japan, and naturally Taji is here.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Found his. Sorry, who's he? Which one is he cosplaying as again?
Taji is Hide, of course.
Okay, I think
he also has a Hide guitar.
Is it the one? Is he? Well, it's kind of hard to tell with Taji, because doesn't he have he has pink hair anyway.
He has like a really long wig, and he's also kind of like what I can best describe as a yellow muumuu.
Oh, does it say like? Yeah, is it? Let me send it in the side chat. Is it this one? Should show up on the right of your screen in the Hangouts window.
Okay, let me just get to my Hangout window again. Okay, yeah, but it's just loading. It's loading very slowly. No, that's just him normally. But once again, you can kind of use that to explain how much influence he has.
Yeah, because it does look very Hide. So, all right, I'll keep looking for it. But in the meantime, Emily says, Lori, I have another question. Say a J-rocker has a girlfriend, and sometimes the music industry says you can't be together. She isn't famous like you. Does the music industry do that a lot? I don't know how. So, like, I guess the question would be,
it's okay to have partners, basically.
Yeah,
It's
are bandmen like doomed to only dating other high profile people, or can they have a private life? You know,
honestly, unless you're like very high level, like way up there in the rankings, it's best not to public. Like, I don't have an opinion on it anyway, but it's just generally more accepted that you're not public with your private life. You don't necessarily come out that you have a girlfriend or a wife. So in most cases, private relationships with, like that, even if somebody's famous or not famous, regardless of your partner's notoriety, you kind of keep it quiet, because with a lot of bandmen, especially like the smaller bandmen, their fan base is in Japan a majority female.
yeah, and it breaks the
It breaks the
experience.
illusion.
Yeah, that's
So
that's something it has in common with K-pop quite a bit.
yeah. So it's not anything to do with the partner's notoriety, but more so, yeah, you just need to keep it private regardless. But like if you're high enough in the food chain, you can say, oh, this is my wife, this is my girlfriend, and it won't have a huge effect. But like you need to be really high up there.
Yeah, you gotta have that. You gotta have that status so you can put your foot down.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
But like it's kind of unspoken but accepted that like a lot of people, not everyone, but of course a lot of people do have romantic interest and all that, because everybody at the end of the day is still human.
Yeah.
You can't go on life living only loving only your guitar.
Yeah.
But it's just not spoken. The fans don't necessarily ask about it, and the members don't necessarily speak about it.
I don't know. Well, I mean, some of these bands get awfully like get awfully lewd with their PVs and their songs. Maybe they have just been dating their guitar. Maybe that's a cry for help, a cry for a girlfriend.
I do know some people that do put a bit more attention into their guitar than any like human relationships.
That's about where I'm at with my career. It's a problem, but I might be moving to a big city where I won't be able to hide from it. So it should solve. Solve it.
Check your messengers. I sent you a screenshot of Taji.
Yeah, I got it queued up, or I found it on Instagram.
That's normal Taji.
Yeah. So just for the let me lock my screen. So just for people who aren't familiar, or if this is your first time hearing about Rides in Rebellion, whoops, this is Taji. It's like a pretty average look for Taji, I'd say. And then this is Taji as Hide. And yeah, looking good. I like it. He really does pull it off. And then, oh, who is this? This is I can't even tell.
That's Kuro.
That's Kuro?
Yep. He looks pretty legitimate, right?
That's the vocalist, for those of you just watching. Yeah, he does. And Kuro looks Kuro's got like a more like a slightly edgier style of Taji's, and like, you know, doesn't he like reds and yellows and whites a little bit more?
He likes dark tones, yeah.
Yeah, he likes dark tones. So he's about as different looking here as Taji is. Actually, much more so. That's amazing.
Like, their makeup artist did amazing that day. She was so busy. If you go to the next one, you've also got Ame in cosplay.
As Yoshiki.
I like how he went the extra mile for the neck brace, though.
Oh, well done. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Their fans must have lost it at this. This is,
yeah. And for that particular concert, it was actually at a festival called Fest, which is really hard to say. It's a big music festival that the band Fest Cure holds every year in Osaka.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
a 2-day event. They invite a whole bunch of bands. They play at two different the same venue but two different stages. And this was from last year. And Rides did, if I remember correctly, 4 shows in total, and 2 of the shows they were doing ex-Japan covers because they just wanted to do something a bit more different from what they normally do. And of course, they dressed up for that, and they did a really good job.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's it's really cool. So Fest Vanquare is like big enough that they put on like a whole giant, is it like it's a giant festival of indie bands, I'm guessing? Like Rides and Rebellion size? I'm not sure how, sorry, before I ask that, how's their crowd sizes lately, Rides and Rebellion? Because
Rides growing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'll say from like the Westerner side, like if you search it, if you search Rides and Rebellion now, they've racked up the 6-figure views on their PVs and stuff. So it's like they seem pretty legit, for an indie band.
Yeah. Well, one good way of saying it is like the biggest VKH festival in Osaka, and one of the biggest ones in Japan. Actually, not the biggest, but one of them, is a festival called Rock Summit, or Rock Summit for short. And Rides and Rebellion is actually one of the closing acts this year.
Oh, good for them. Yeah.
A huge thing. It's a huge step forward. And like usually that's for bands like Saza and all of that, Dadaroma, etc. But this year it's Rides and Rebellion closing off one of the venues. Like it's a huge festival. Like usually around 60 or 70 bands come and play. 6 venues all over Osaka. So to be one of the bands closing at one of the venues is a really good thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The lineup for this year's Fest is Fest Cure, Dadaroma, Lizard, Purple Stone, Amai Boyoku, Zigzag, Saza, Owls, Baby Kingdom, Neverland, Poido, Razor.
Oh, wow.
Pentagon, and just to name a few.
And good.
Rebellion is actually playing both days.
Those are some hot bands.
Yeah, the only 2 bands playing both days are Fest Cure and Rides and Rebellion. All other bands are only playing one day.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's good. Sounds like they're on the team of like the young bands that have been like kind of identified as like these are the heat seekers, the future heat seekers. Because it's like,
yeah,
if you're playing with Poidol and Razor, has Razor's audience been growing at all? Are you familiar at all with their progress?
Not so much. I think they are, of course, moving ahead, but I can't really say for sure at what rate.
Yeah, because I don't see a ton of it's just hard. It's hard to tell. They don't have enough buzz international yet, I don't think, for me to really gauge. Because it's like I can't tell. Like I can't tell if they're like, if the scene's restricted to like eyes on the local Japanese scene. It's like we don't.
Yeah, you see them playing with a lot of the other like really big notable names, so they must be doing pretty well.
Well, they're also on they're on Timely Channel. I thought they had a contract with PSC somehow, but I could be wrong about that. I mean, the vocalist is from Born, and the guitarist is from the vocalist is from Born, and that was a PSC band, so maybe that's why I'm thinking that. But yeah. Trim says you should tweet this to. You should. He says you should tweet the cosplay, the Yoshiki cosplay that Ame did. Tweet it at Yoshiki because he loves cosplay and he'll probably like and retweet it.
It's possible that he might have already seen it because, like, from what I understand, I'm not 100% sure, but from what I understand, they actually got like permission either from Yoshiki or somebody along those lines to do the Rusty Nail cover. And like, not only did they just cover it, they also released it. So of course, like, you need very specific permission to do stuff like that. So it's possible. I'm not sure how well in contact they are, but maybe he's already seen it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see what else. I had some other topics I didn't quite get to for, related to Hide and
yeah.
Do you know anything about the tribute albums or tribute concerts that have happened in recent years? That was a topic I wanted to get to, but only partially was able to research before the show. Or did you ever go to any of them? Or
I was gonna go to the one last year, but like, just things kind of didn't like lay up the way I needed it to happen if I was gonna go. But like, I know that they're always huge events. They always sell well, which goes to show like how much people still treasure him.
Yeah,
and
for
it's
sure.
the same with like you still get like little Hide Lemon shops popping up around every island again.
Aw.
They usually sell really well, but they're pop-up stores, so they don't last for long. Like, if there's one open, you need to get there quick because like in a month or so it will be gone. But that always sells really well and all that. I've got some like Hide body spray that I bought, like perfume. That's really nice. I've still got that. But yeah, anything to do with memorial goes very well because there's still a lot of people that, rightly so, still really care about Hide, his legacy and his music.
Yeah, I think my favorite memorial performance I've seen is I saw a clip somewhere of Lunacy at their Lunatic Fest, and they covered Rocket Dive, and they nailed it, man. Like Sugso doing those distorted guitar solos and stuff. Oh, it was great. It was weird hearing it with like that. I forget Lunacy's vocalist name, but it was a little weird hearing such a melodic voice singing it. But like the instrumentation and everything was like, it was great. It was a great cover.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, when you do get a really good X Japan cover, regardless of the song, like, you can really tell if X Japan was important to the band as like a band by how well they do. Because like, if you really admire the band, you're going to put in a little bit more effort to do it right?
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I pitched to the chat was on the last stream was oh, by the way, Trim says Lunacy covered Scanner 2, and the vocalist name is Ryuichi. Ryuichi. Thank you. Okay, yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I forgot that one. But so one of the things I pitched to the chat was I was talking with a few people and just heard a couple different interesting points, and I basically kind of got it into my head that X Japan doesn't really do power metal anymore, right? They do rock, and first of all, someone made an interesting point that it's. What do you think the chances are that they? I know it seems like it's like, oh, they probably went from power metal to rock just to to try and have a more mainstream appeal to the U.S. and stuff like that. Maybe I feel like there might be like a tendency to assume that. What do you think the chances are that they switch to rock to give like Yoshiki a break, from all the drumming and stuff?
Well, it's completely possible. Honestly, it's even more possible that it was a mixture of everything together.
Yeah, it's usually how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Because of course, like power rock, you're really putting your whole body into it. Power metal and all that. So you need to like, especially as a drummer, like honestly, I personally have always had a soft spot for guitars. I love the sound of a good guitar riff, but drummers are 100% the unsung hero in any band.
Oh, for sure.
Like if you ever actually watch like not just the making of, but like a full PV filming, it's amazing how hard especially the drummer needs to work, because in every scene they're visible, so they need to play the same song like 50 or 60 times to get all the shots. And as a drummer, like you need to keep the beat when you're playing live, because everybody relies on that rhythm.
Yeah.
And you need to put power in your arms and your upper body and even your legs, like your whole body. You need to push forward and kind of like exert your whole body to be able to like hit as hard as you need to. And also you need to like contain yourself, and even that takes a lot of like pressure in the body. So of course, like that's a huge thing. And like as a drummer, you really put your body through hell. So like I can completely understand if Yoshiki wanted to take it a little bit easier for his own personal health and safety.
Yeah. The second part of that was of that line of thinking was that there I watched a YouTube commentary on X Japan. Actually, I should shout him out if I can find it. But he made an interesting point that and I think I kind of see it now that I've listened to like all of Hide's solo discography, is that when they released that IV song, or 4, the Roman numeral 4 song, for Saw, yeah, and the music video itself was a tribute album to, or it was a tribute video to Hide, that you could pick up like some Hide vibes like from that in that song. So I guess like the question I was asking the chat, and maybe I was wondering what you think, is do you think it would be a good idea if X Japan dabbled in a little bit of like Hide's style of rock, since they're so adjacent to it at this point? Or do you think that's dangerous, or would be like treading on sacred territory or something like that?
It really depends on how they handle it. Because I know one thing that X Japan, and specifically Yoshiki, something that's often said is that they kind of like milk Hide's memory a bit too much.
Yeah, I think he's on dangerous ground already.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
To kind of like, in order to avoid that, because if they don't tread very carefully, it's gonna be that, but even stronger and louder. It can be done, but they need to do it incredibly carefully. Because honestly, that style of music is still good. So they need to kind of make it more about, we're influenced by Hide, but this isn't all about him, it's about us going forward. And we're just kind of keeping that sound because it's what's important to us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It would seem like a PR nightmare, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, their PR team would need to handle it very well.
Would you want to be their like promoter during that time? You know, like you hear the track and you're like, oh, this sounds like Hide. Oh crap. You know, like
I'd be working very hard.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the best I can say.
Yeah, that's a good estimation. Yeah. I think that's an accurate estimation.
I mean, I don't think it can't be done. I don't think you can't make people approve of it. And I think it would be more accepted in Japan rather than internationally.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, it would be a hell of a lot of work for whoever's doing their international promotion, but can be done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm not particularly pushing for it one way or another, but I just thought it was an interesting point, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, I honestly hadn't stopped to think about that because I still think of X Japan as a power metal band, even though they're not. But like Born to Be Free sounds like power metal without being power metal.
Yeah.
Because it's got that anthemic power metal chorus. But I also asked like what they would think of electronic core X Japan, and I got a couple of ones for approval in the chat. So
you're not faring too far off Rise and Rebellion a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't that be something, right? Like this, they get inspired by Rides after Rides gets inspired by them. We would have to make the point of being like they got it from Rides and Rebellion. If like,
Rides and Rebellion inspired X Japan.
Yeah, just make that claim until it gets refuted, if ever.
As he can talk himself out of the paper bag, I'm sure he could make it work.
Yeah. Let the band members do it. Yeah.
But we just got another comment in the chat. But that's difficult if X starts to forget about Hide. It will be a nightmare for them in Japan. They're never gonna forget him, and like his name is never not going to be connected to X Japan. It's no matter what they do, positive or negative. Like Hide's name is always going to be connected to X Japan. What they need to do, both in Japan and more so internationally, because the international fans tend to be a bit more, I wouldn't say sensitive, but a bit more, what's a good word? International fans tend to be a bit more particular with situations such as this.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of how they handle it and how they promote it. The thing is, like I said earlier, what criticism that X Japan and Yoshiki in particular often gets from international fans is that he's milking Hide's death to keep himself relevant or to promote new releases, etc., etc. So if they were to kind of like go a bit more Hide style music, they need to promote it in a way that it doesn't seem like it's being milked in the mind of international fans. The Japanese fans are unlikely to see it that way.
Yeah. I think that's a shame because I think it's pretty much just what would you call it? I think it's just they're missing the nuances of the situations, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it gets lost in translation, you know.
It's an issue that is more relevant in the international fan base. The Japanese fans don't have like the same issue as much as the international fans, and that's nothing against either the Japanese fans or the international fans. Everybody's like okay to have their own opinion, but like in a lot of Western cultures in general, we're a bit more sensitive with talking about the dead.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's more of a cultural thing than anything. I'm
sorry. Did you say which one did you say was more sensitive about talking about the dead?
I think honestly Western culture.
Oh, okay.
Because we have a lot more standards and all of that when we talk about the dead. And we have like it's kind of hard to really explain clearly, but
Here's my, can I guess? Can I try and guess?
yeah,
Is it because like our culture kind of reviles the idea of being dead, whereas Japan has like a certain cultural or maybe like religious respect for the dead?
that could be it. And
Okay.
like you've also got the saying of like don't speak ill of the dead. And I think in Western culture we take that to like a whole different level a lot of the time. Like not only should you not speak ill of the dead, like you should do basically everything possible to protect the honor of the dead and not like to profit from the dead. Um,
Yeah. No, I get it.
and a lot of foreign fans, because of that, like that kind of image that we're raised with on how we treat the dead, that's why a lot of people have issues with what's happening. But it's all a cultural thing, and in Japan, it's not considered a massive issue
Yeah, for sure.
because they in the Japanese people mind, it's that they're still just respecting Hide. They're still like giving forward to his memory and all of that. Um, but yeah, the thing is, ex Japan does need to be a bit more aware of this because they are reaching out to the international market a bit more now. So it's something that they're going to come up against more and more, whereas it might not matter in the Japanese scene, it's going to matter more in the international scene. So they're going to need to be more cautious.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, yeah, maybe let's go back because I mean, I think we answered. I don't remember what the question was, but I felt a need to address. Oh, yeah, the question which we did kind of answer, but there was another take I wanted to put on it. Where was it Japanese band's idea is to travel internationally? Where'd that idea come from? Um, my thought on it is that, and I kind of get this vibe from, you know, what I don't know what I can say, should say. I get a general impression from certain parts of the industries that it's like a mild interest, but like I'm getting the vibe that it's like they're interested, but they don't know enough, and also they've got bigger priorities. But it's like decreasing over time as bands get more and more exposure, and the foreign fans get more and more vocal. But I was thinking that the bigger priorities thing is that Japan is the second largest music industry in the world. You know, like, and then just right behind America. So I mean, I guess there's like a lot of I get the impression that there's a lot of ground to work with in Japan. It's like it's a small country geographically, but the industry itself is like it's very big. And then you combine, and then like there's that, and then you combine that with the fact that it's like our culture, as I understand, as has been explained to me, like the U.S. culture, not culture, the U.S. economy, because of our culture, seems like hieroglyphics to a lot of people from more like homogenous countries, like countries with one culture, because it's like for people in chat, like imagine growing up in a country, but your country's history is like what, 800 years of like the same general stuff that's going in the same general line, same general way things being done, and then like all of a sudden you have to deal with a country that is technically a continent, like probably more accurately a continent with 50 small countries inside of it, all of those countries have different laws, they have different cultures, they have different values. They're all at war. They're all like at political and cultural war with each other. And everybody inside of each of those states, to some random degree of like proportion, is a bunch of people from other countries all over the world, or from descendants of people from a bunch of countries all over the world. So it's like, what are these people like? It's going to depend on everything. So it's like, it's really difficult to, I can understand why it would seem like a really tall order to try and figure out like how to approach the market. Cause it's like a hive mind of markets, you know, it's like,
yeah, for sure. That's a really good point. Like there's no doubt a lot of bands that have at least a fleeting interest in the international market, but in most cases, like just looking at it is terrifying for a lot of bands and a lot of labels, because like the international fan base and international industry is so foreign to them. So like unless they have a promoter, like a international promoter that can help them, it's like jumping into an ocean without no idea on how to get back to land. You can swim, but if you don't have like somebody there to help you, you're just gonna go around in circles. So that's what it seems like to a lot of bands and a lot of labels. But with that being said, putting international promoters like myself aside, the fact that in this modern day, like there's so much to do on the internet, there's so much to do on iTunes and etc. etc. It does make it a little bit easier for bands to reach out, like do some reach out work by themselves. So like through Twitter and all that, or through Facebook, through YouTube. So it is getting easier, but anything like advanced promotion or overseas tours and all that, they really need some help.
yeah.
And basically, yeah, that's when promoters are important.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I really think you're doing the Lord's work over there. Because like, you know, I mean, you grew up in, what's your, did you grow up in the States at all? Or did you live in the States at all?
No, I lived in Australia basically my entire life before moving to Japan. But I have,
Oh,
like,
okay.
I went to America for a USA. That's about it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yep. That was my first time in America.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
first time, first concert. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
What did you think?
I was really, really tired. But yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was
guess not
a
a lot of
really
time
good
to take it in.
experience. Like those boys put on a good show. Like I cried at the end of the show, and I think the boys still have footage of that, so that's a little bit embarrassing. Honestly, like we we were all really busy, and it was all really stressful. But the fans were lovely. The AUSA staff were lovely. They took good care of us. The American B-Star staff did an amazing job organizing everything that they organized. So, like in general, the whole show, the whole time in America, even though it was very tiring and a lot of hard work, it was a lot of fun. And I know the boys enjoyed their American hamburgers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so they tried them. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Now, because I know how healthy those guys eat normally, like just Japanese bandmen in general. So that's their one for the next decade, and then it's.
Oh no, they're addicted now.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And like feed for us, if we get them to America, they're looking for to the same kind of stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. Asuka says, Jeff, I'm one of them. Oh, she's I think she's talking about the She's one of the people from a homogenous culture looking over at the craziness in the States, this experiment we've got going on. Like, what the fuck is happening? So yeah. Asako, where are you from? Actually, wait, don't post that in the chat unless you don't care. But at me where you're from. I'm just curious. She's was one of our first viewers.
Okay.
But let's see. Lori, how did you become a promoter for Japanese bands?
We went into it a little bit before, but yeah, basically through Rides in Rebellion, they were the first band I started working with. I modeled for them and just kind of casually thought up maybe doing promotion for them, and also started doing live photography through them, not through them, for them. When I was backstage with them, like for photography, I got to meet other bands and I got to talk to other bands, and they love like Rise and Rebellion. They're all lovely people, so they kind of like promoted me out to other bands that were at the same concerts. So I started taking photos at other bands' lives and so on and so forth. And then other bands would be like, "Oh, can you help us reach out to the foreign fans, etc., etc." So in that way, me working with bands, becoming a promoter, and even the formation of V-Star Promotion all happened very organically because of Rise and Rebellion.
Yeah, that was so that was the start. I mean, you've definitely got I've told you this already, but like you've definitely got a knack for finding like these I was gonna say they're sleeper hits, but it's not that. It's just that like you find them before other people realize they're gonna be a hit. Like I actually knew about Viva Rush, and I was keeping an eye on him because I had heard Mademoiselle, but I wasn't sure. But you would kind of but then I found out that you were promoting them, and you'd sounded like you'd locked it in. So I was like, all right, let's get ready. And then their next song was like a home run.
Sorry, I didn't say.
Yeah.
I think like when you look at a band for Viva Rush, for example, they're already an established band. They are about to celebrate their 2-year anniversary this year. And usually I start working with bands a little bit younger than this. I mean, I'll work with any band that has an interest in international expansion if I think they have potential. But with Viva Rush, they were still already doing really well in Japan. And they had a few fans littered around the place internationally. And they did have that potential, but I think they didn't really know how to tap into that as far as the international fan base is concerned. So what I basically did was I came along, I talked to Keita, who's their boss, and I talked to their members, and like there was a lot of discussion going on, and I told them this is how you become popular overseas, and they were like, okay, do it. So like it's still in process, but compared to where they were like 4 or 5 months ago, you can definitely tell that their presence in the international fan base has grown quite a huge amount.
Oh yeah, the Dreamers, the international Dreamers love them. Like from what I've seen. Sure. Yeah. Also, that's another like honestly, guys, like just check out all of Lori's bands. Like I this is why we like working with her, because like she okay, so let's list them out just so they get an idea, right? I know I don't mean to embarrass you by like paying you excessive compliments, but it's like it's honestly uncanny a little bit. Like I was like, how is she doing this? Because you okay, so Rides in Rebellion, and then Deviloof, who's now signed to Danger Crew, Or
they signed to Danger Crew now, a subsidiary of Danger Crew, but still nonetheless Danger
Crew. Oh, right. It's the one, I forget the name of it, but it's the same one that the A Barking Dog Never Bites is on, I think. Yeah. So there's that, and then you brought Morgan to Europe. You and your team, and a bunch of other people. And then Viva Rush has been good. I may not do these chronologically.
That's so good.
And you did a video introduction with Royce, you know.
Art there as well.
Yeah, you have good picks and you have good taste so far. So I mean, it's pretty pretty great. Yeah.
And the thing is, there's also been bands that unfortunately haven't lasted, which are the same, because I did see a lot of potential, but that's just the way it goes in the industry sometimes.
Yeah, I will say even those were I did see the potential.
Yeah.
Wasn't Blitz one of them?
Blaze.
Oh, Blaze.
The thing with Blaze, actually, one of our staff members now, he goes by the name John now, but he was actually one of the guitarists in Blaze. And he speaks perfect English. If you go to the V-Star Promotion YouTube channel, you can see him interviewing some bands. Because what happens when he interviews band members is he'll say the question in Japanese and English, then he'll get the answer in Japanese and he'll explain it in English because he's fluent. He grew up in America for a bunch of years when he was young. So yeah, Blaze had potential, and especially the other guitarist. Unfortunately, he's no longer in the industry, but brilliant composer. But one of the more recent bands that we worked with that unfortunately didn't last was a band called Jaldan. And people that know the V-Star history a bit will know a bit more about Jaldan. They were a really young band. But they disbanded rather quickly, unfortunately, and they had a really good theme. Unfortunately, their videos aren't up on YouTube anymore. They had a prison break theme, and the vocalist had an amazing voice for somebody so young and had so much potential.
How do you spell their name?
Jaldan, Jaldan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if we covered them at all.
I think you might have.
Yeah, our news reporter Shira is really good at digging up really tiny bands that people are interested in. So yeah, we got them. 4/25, 2017, so a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I remember this. I remember these pictures. The keep out stuff. Oh, that was you.
Unfortunately, they never fully released those photos, which is a shame because I worked really hard on the post-processing. So that band is actually a band that I also took the artist photos for.
Oh wow.
So,
oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm putting the pieces together. Yeah, it's cool.
It just kind of goes to show that with potential, it doesn't always work out, but you do need to keep an eye out for it regardless.
Yeah.
And even if something doesn't work out due to various reasons, they couldn't help that they needed to disband. It was just something that needed to happen. It doesn't mean that your senses for potential were wrong.
I mean, if there's anything that we can learn from Visual K, it's that you should always be prepared to deal with the fact that life is not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see our live stream? Any part of our live stream that was the group therapy for fans of disbanded Visual K bands?
No, I don't think I've gotten around to watching that one, but I can definitely talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, well, I mean, I'm not sure how you would probably need to play it in the background while you work and just kind of zone out to it, because we went 6 hours.
Wow.
Just because we had so many bands. The chat had so many bands. Like I'm still finding out like that that members of bands that I was really into and was bummed that they disbanded. Like they're in bands, and I keep finding out and not realizing that it's them. Like I just recently realized that Rain's vocalist is the vocalist from And Eccentric Agent. Like,
it's amazing how it works out that way.
Yeah, I totally missed it. It makes sense because Rain's style is phenomenal, and Eccentric Agent had a good style, and they were roughly the same kind of hard rock sound. But I totally missed it. I totally missed it. Because I think it was such an upgrade in their look. Somebody asked about a band. I wanted to. It was Asuka. She asked if you know about Mamireta.
I do know of them. I need to do a bit more looking into them, but they are definitely somebody that's popped up on my radar.
Yeah. We are all big fans of Mamireta here at VKH, I think. Well, Winona and I are, and Sophie, all the owners, I think they've talked to. I think Asuka has referred to herself as Mamireta Trash, like, which I like. I think that should be like their fan club name. But they're very funny, and they're and then they're also heavy. It's fun.
It's a good mix.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. Trying to. According to Uruha from the Gazette, he seemed to always have the thought at the back of his head to make it internationally. So going back to the artist making it internationally. So Uruha from the Gazette said he always had to. He always seemed to have the thought at the back of his head to make it internationally, and he compared it to like how international bands get to Japan.
Yeah, I definitely think, like I said earlier, a lot of bands, or at least band members, have like the idea somewhere in their head that, oh, it would be nice, or if I can get overseas, it would be nice. But at the end of the day, a lot of bands just don't know how to do it until they get a promoter on hand, an international promoter on hand. But yeah, like, of course, there probably are some bands that have no interest, but I think a majority of bands at least would have a passing interest, at least, in somehow getting into the international market, if nothing else, for like bragging purposes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the bragging rights is probably a good enough reason for Europe too,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, if you tour the EU and you hit multiple countries, I think that's like, I shouldn't say to be fair, but I should say like that does kind of, I hope that's communicated to them that that's kind of like a rough example of like what an American tour would be like, right?
Yeah.
Just like running through a bunch of countries real quick. It's just they're about the same size and everything. So, do you have anything else you wanted to talk about with Hide that we might have skipped over?
Yeah, nothing in particular. I think we went on a few tangents here, but I think everything we discussed was like good topics. But just jumping back into Hide's legacy a bit, I think anything we talk about kind of in some way can lead back to Hide, because he was such an influential person, and if it wasn't for his input, the industry wouldn't be, I think, nearly as strong as what it is today.
So yeah, it's like, again, it's just really incredible that it's everything, like almost everything. Maybe like Maybe not the metal scene. Like maybe not Nagoya-ke.
Huh.
But like everything else, I don't know. But like so much of it, so much of like especially if the band's nuanced, like their sound is nuanced, or like they experiment with different sounds and stuff, like that comes straight from Hide. I even heard a song, and I brought it up on what was the name of the song? Let me pull it up. They had a song off of their Science album. Are you familiar with the song Lemonade Ice Cream?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah. Does that not sound like a Gorillaz track to you? Like a lighthearted Gorillaz track?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I can see the imagery of it, like how you can kind of make the comparisons.
I thought of like Melancholy Hill, like the on Melancholy Hill. I was like, that is uncanny, or that, I mean, that's amazing because that was 1996. You know, it's like I don't know who was inspired from who, or if it just happened at the same time, because I know the Gorillaz was like kind of a work in progress unofficially for a long time, but they didn't have any music out in 1996, so
yeah, not that far back.
No, but it was very uncanny. Well, we can go ahead and in the live stream. I think we've gone for long enough.
I guess like the best way we can end it is just say Hide's legacy still lives strong. And I don't think anybody's gonna forget him soon, nor should they. Ex-Japan especially are always gonna keep his legacy in the spotlight. So as fans, we just need to continue thanking Hide for everything that he's influenced, for everything that he stood for, and all the changes he's made for the better.
Yeah, I agree. And I would add that, like, in today's society with the internet and all these events and everything, that starts to affect music a lot. So I don't know many artists from my generation, you know, that, for example, that are going to leave a legacy, because it's been it's just been drowned in like a deluge of information and things like that. But at least in the context of Visual K, his legacy is like that strong that it's like people are still talking about it, you know.
Even 20, 50 years time, I think people are still gonna remember him.
This is the first kind of situation like this where I've never been this confident about that it's going to be like that. I'm usually very cynical about like everything's gonna get like ignored at some point or go away or whatever, but like it's just so damn uncanny. Like I'm still not over it. I need to write an article about this probably.
Well, honestly, you just need to look at the fact that even young kids growing up with parents that like Visual K, they're still listening to Hide. They're still hearing Hide. Like, I went to Wakayama yesterday for personal reasons, and I went to, like, Wakayama is a pretty small area, a little bit countryside, and I went to a game arcade there, and there were Hide toys all around the place. So even like in common, like, everyday life and culture here, he's still everywhere. His image is everywhere. I mean, it's a bit more strong at the moment because of the anniversary, but he's got to be remembered through people who pass his legacy down, and that's going to continue for a very long time.
Right, yeah. For sure.
I mean,
absolutely.
I know for sure 10, 20 years time, when a lot of the guys I work with now, when they eventually like stop music and they start a family and all that, their kids are going to know about Hide. I know my kids are going to know about Hide. and probably those people listening now, you're gonna tell your loved ones or your future loved ones or whoever will basically listen about Hide when the topic of visual kei comes up, because you think of visual kei and you think of Hide.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I do, and that really is like what that's a big departure. I think that's a key departure. It's like subtle, but it's like important from like American rock culture. Because that didn't really happen with the future generations that came after. Maybe it's because like we like our country is like the one that, or either us or the UK are often the ones that are like grinding out the brand new genres or whatever, the official genres or whatever. So everybody's at war with each other trying to figure out what they are and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's pressure to do that for whatever reason. But yeah, maybe it's that, or maybe it's something else. But the bands didn't really carry on the legacy that in the same way that as is at least being done in Visual Kei, if not like in other J-Rock. And I hope they don't lose that. I don't think Visual Kei will lose that. No. I think J-Rock might lose it, you know.
I think Visual Kei will continue to change and evolve because that's just what it always does. Like Visual Kei is never the same for too long. But I think the very core values of Visual Kei will always stay the same. And they are core values in which Hide had a key part in creating.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's check chat one more time just to see if might have missed something. If you guys watching now in the chat, or if I'm seeing True agreed. Amazing life, Jeff and Lori. Emily, you are so sweet. Bless you, child. Bless you, child. But yeah, so if you guys like this this kind of a stream, like let me know. Winona and I had actually been toying with the idea of doing a second channel where it's just like for, you know, the more dedicated listeners or just people that like hanging out with us more than like, you know, talking about the specific topic or whatever, and just kind of hanging out and shooting the shit, and just kind of make it a secret channel. So I'm putting it here at the end. This was kind of a long stream too, so it's like only the real people get here. I did this with our April Fool's thing, like our April Fool's article I wrote about Marilyn Manson. I hid it inside of like a 3-hour long podcast that I was going to write an April Fool's article that was like a fake review of Marilyn Manson's latest album, and that the title would say something like he's the new king of Visual Kei. And just to really mess with people. And then I ended up doing it, and there were a few people that like hung in there for the whole thing. So I'm doing it again. We might make like a second hangout channel. I'll just like slip it in at the bottom of the chat of the main live, and then just kind of see who shows up. Maybe don't even promote it. It's a secret stream. Shh, don't tell anyone.
For the insiders.
Yeah, for the insiders. We are VIP, says Trim. Yes. All right, guys. Thanks for coming over. Thanks for doing the lateral move. And yeah, thanks for listening. Lori, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
No problem. Sorry I came in so late.
Oh, no worries. I think it all worked out really well because all the new stuff I did, I was focusing on making sure it all worked right. So I think it was once I found out it was just going to be me, I like added extra things to like push myself and see like how much of this going to get working correctly at once. And then this one's good because it's like more relaxed, like the other streams have been sometimes. So it's good. It's fun. I feel accomplished. I feel really accomplished. So, All right, guys, we will talk to you later. We'll see you later. I put all of Lori's related links, as in like related to V-Star promotion and the bands they're working with. So there's a Rides in Rebellion Facebook page link. There's a let me make sure these work real quick. Yep. There's a Vivarush Facebook page link, Devlu Facebook. The rides, so the Vivarush is in English and it's active and it's awesome. And
Rides in Rebellion is merely reactive. It's in Japanese and English.
Okay.
And Devlu will be reactivated soon.
Yeah.
That's upcoming work in progress.
Okay, cool.
Seichi Hoshiko Facebook is only in Japanese. He operates that himself, but his English Twitter is, of course, in English, and that's active.
And then you can also follow, so those are in there, and then you can also follow V-Star Promotion on Facebook and subscribe to him on YouTube. So
feel free to send us any messages or etc. Either myself or another member of staff will try to respond ASAP.
Yes, absolutely. Asuka says you could do the casual stream on Twitch. That's interesting. That's interesting. Twitch scares me right now, though. The new rules they put in place are very scary. So we'll have to see. Because the way they read, it's like the people streaming are technically responsible for what the people in their chat do. And that bothers me, just in case. Our chat's sweet, but you never know, right? So, but we'll see. I'll look into it. That was a bad brand new topic to just open up right at the end. Sorry, guys. Emily says this was amazing. Sweet dreams to you, Jeff, and good morning to you, Lori. Thank you very much.
Technically, it's 4:30 p.m. for me now.
Oh, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm off to bed. It's 3:30 a.m. here. So.
And I'm actually off to bed too. So.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Bye.
Bye.